The stars blinked in the endless void above the Earth, a planet that had survived countless struggles and threats yet now stood on the brink of its most significant test. Humanity had never known peace, but had thrived in the face of war and adversity. As the humans of the distant future expanded across the stars, they faced not only alien enemies, but challenges from within their own ranks. Their exploration fleets had long since surpassed the limits of their homeworld, leaving Earth behind, as they spread through the galaxy seeking new worlds to conquer. But humanity had not forgotten its roots nor the price it had paid to rise to such heights. Aboard the flagship Aegis, the largest and most advanced warship ever created, the crew was preparing for their greatest mission. Yet the ship was massive, spanning over 3 kilometers from bow to stern. Its sleek surface reflected the cold light of distant stars. The hum of engines and the quiet chatter of officers filled the command deck, where the fleet admiral stood staring out at the stars beyond. The vastness of space seemed to stretch forever, like an endless ocean waiting to be crossed. Admiral Evelyn Carter stood tall with a presence that demanded respect. Her eyes were focused, sharp with determination, as she reviewed the latest intel brought to her by the scout ships that had ventured deep into unknown space beyond the territories of the human empire. Something had been detected far from the known galaxy, an anomaly unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The scouts had been able to gather only fragmented data, but it was enough to spark an urgent call for action. It had been years since humans had encountered anything that could challenge their strength, but this time felt different. The anomaly was unlike any natural phenomenon. The crew had studied before. It pulsed with energy in ways that defied the laws of physics. Something was out there, a force more powerful than anything they had ever encountered. Their sensors had only managed to capture strange readings and an overwhelming surge of energy emanating from deep within the unknown region, where no human had ventured before. The uncertainty and the unknown had caused a ripple of unease among the ranks, yet Admiral Carter was resolute. Humanity had faced extinction before and had always come out on top. Their survival was a testament to their resilience, their ingenuity, their ability to adapt and overcome no matter the challenge. Whether it was the rising tides of war with alien species or the crushing oppression from a vast galactic empire, humanity had persevered. It was said that humans were the most dangerous species in the galaxy because they would not stop fighting even when there seemed to be no hope left. As Carter turned away from the viewport and addressed her crew, she knew that whatever awaited them in the distant reaches of space would not deter them. She trusted the strength of the men and women who served alongside her and believed in the very core of what humanity stood for. They were not just a species that had survived, they were a species that would conquer. Our story begins as the Aegis prepares to leave the safety of the known galaxy and venture into uncharted territory. They did not know what lay ahead, but they did know this: humanity would face whatever came their way with unwavering determination, with strength and ingenuity the likes of which no enemy could fathom. Humanity would endure whatever the stars could throw at them. The Aegis surged forward into the unknown as the vast expanse of the galaxy slowly shrank behind them, fading into the distance, until all that remained was the deep black void of uncharted space, with its endless mystery. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge, her fingers tapping rhythmically against the console in front of her as she reviewed the data on the anomaly. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep her on edge. There was something in the way the energy signatures fluctuated that suggested intelligence, something that could not be easily explained by natural phenomena. The crew was tense. They had been in deep space for days now with no sign of any known life forms or objects of interest. Every scan seemed to come back empty, but Carter's instincts told her that something was waiting out there, something that was watching them, perhaps even anticipating their arrival. The thought sent a chill down her spine, but she kept it to herself. There was no room for doubt on the bridge of the Aegis, only focus. Lieutenant Commander Alex Vega stood at her side, his eyes scanning the holographic display that projected the ship's path ahead. His expression was unreadable, but Carter could see the glimmer of unease in his eyes. He was an experienced officer, one of the best, but even he had his moments of uncertainty. "Admiral, the anomaly is coming into range," Vega reported, his voice steady, but with a hint of hesitation. "Prepare for full scan," Carter replied, Let's see what we're dealing with. The crew worked with precision, activating the advanced sensors and long-range scanners that the Aegis was known for. A network of satellites and deep space probes scattered along their path sent live data back to the ship. As they neared the anomaly, the energy readings intensified, pulsing with a rhythmic pattern that was almost hypnotic. The hairs on the back of Carter's neck stood up. "We're close," Vega said, his voice barely above a whisper. This doesn't feel right." Carter turned to him, her eyes locking onto his. "Stay sharp, Vega. We don't know what this is yet, but we're going to find out." For a moment, there was silence as the crew focused on their duties, each of them aware of the growing tension in the air. The vastness of space had always been daunting, but now it felt oppressive, as though the very universe itself was holding its breath, just waiting for something to happen. Then it came without warning. A burst of energy flashed across their scanners, so powerful it nearly overloaded the system. The lights on the bridge flickered as alarms blared through the ship. The crew scrambled to regain control of the systems. "What was that?" Vega demanded, his hands flying over the controls as he worked to stabilize the ship. "Unknown," Carter replied through clenched teeth. "I've never seen anything like it." The data they received next was even more baffling. A message no one had expected, not a transmission from an alien race or a cry for help, but a series of strange symbols that danced across their screens like an encrypted language far beyond human comprehension. It was as though the stars themselves were trying to communicate with them. "Can we decode it?" Carter asked, her eyes narrowing as she watched the symbols flicker. "I don't know," Vega replied, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "It's unlike anything we've ever encountered." "We'll figure it out," Carter said, her voice firm. "Humans have always found a way to adapt and overcome. We won't stop now." As the crew worked tirelessly to make sense of the strange symbols and the burst of energy, the Aegis continued its journey deeper into the anomaly, its hull vibrating with the power of forces unknown. A quiet sense of anticipation filled the bridge. Something had just changed, and none of them could tell whether it was for better or worse. The Aegis drifted silently deeper into the anomaly, the ship's engines humming steadily as the crew continued their work. Yet the oppressive weight of the unknown hung heavy in the air. Despite their advanced technology, the human mind could only comprehend so much of what lay beyond the stars. This was a different kind of mystery, one that felt like it was reaching out, probing, testing their very existence. Admiral Carter stood at the helm, her gaze fixed on the screen that displayed the strange symbols that had appeared after the burst of energy. Her mind raced, trying to find a pattern, a clue, anything that could unlock the meaning behind the transmission. She had spent years studying the universe, understanding alien cultures, and navigating the complexities of galactic politics, but this was something entirely different. Lieutenant Commander Vega worked beside her, his fingers flying over the controls as he analyzed the symbols, trying to decipher their meaning. Despite his expertise in cryptography and signal interception, he could not shake the feeling that they were being watched. It wasn't just a paranoia. There was something in the air, something in the way the symbols glowed on the screen as if they were alive. "We're getting another burst," Vega said, his voice tight with apprehension. Carter's eyes snapped to the display. A new series of symbols appeared, more complex than the last, accompanied by another pulse of energy that made the ship shudder slightly. This time, the symbols weren't just random characters. They were shifting, changing as if they were being formed in real time by an unseen hand. The pattern was clear now, almost too clear, as if it was designed specifically for the Aegis. "Can you isolate the source of the signal?" Carter asked, her voice steady despite the growing unease within her. "I'm trying," Vega replied, his face drawn in concentration. "It's not like anything we've seen before. The source seems to be everywhere. It's as if the signal is originating from all directions at once." Carter's eyes narrowed. "Are you saying we're in the center of it?" Vega didn't answer immediately, his brow furrowing as he worked through the data. Finally, he looked up, his expression grim. "Yes, I think we are." A chill ran down Carter's spine. Being in the center of something unknown could be either a blessing or a curse. There were stories, ancient legends, about ships that ventured too far into the uncharted regions of space, only to disappear without a trace. Carter had always dismissed them as myth, but now the possibility loomed large before her. "Admiral," a voice called from the back of the bridge. It was Lieutenant Patel, the ship's science officer. She had been running scans of the surrounding space, and her face was pale. "I've detected something. It's hard to explain, but the space around us isn't like the space we know. The fabric of reality feels warped, like we're in a different dimension." Carter's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean, warped?" "The gravitational pull around us is inconsistent. Time seems to stretch and compress at random intervals. And the stars," Patel hesitated, her voice faltering. "The stars are moving, not just in the way they do with gravitational forces, but in ways that defy everything we know about astrophysics." The crew fell silent, the implications of Patel's words sinking in. Something was wrong, deeply wrong, and they had no idea what it was. "Could this be a trap?" Vega asked, his voice low. "Perhaps," Carter replied, her mind already racing through possible scenarios. "But whatever this is, it's not a threat we've ever encountered. And that makes it even more dangerous." She took a deep breath, straightening her back. "We need to know more." We move forward, but cautiously. Keep monitoring the symbols and energy pulses. If we can't make sense of them, we'll take a more direct approach. The crew nodded, returning to their stations, their focus unwavering despite the fear that lingered in their eyes. Carter knew that humanity's strength wasn't just in their ability to fight. It was in their unyielding will to face the unknown, no matter how terrifying. And whatever lay ahead in the heart of this anomaly, they would meet it with the same resolve that had carried humanity through centuries of hardship. The Aegis pressed on, its course set toward the heart of the mystery. The unknown was no longer a distant threat. It was here, in the very stars they once thought they understood. The Aegis plunged deeper into the heart of the anomaly, its crew working in tight synchronization as they navigated the shifting, unpredictable forces that surrounded them. Outside, the stars had become nothing more than faint smudges against a backdrop of swirling energy, constantly changing, bending, and warping in ways that defied all known science. The feeling of being untethered from reality itself grew stronger with each passing moment. Admiral Carter stood at the front of the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back as she observed the fluctuations in space. Her mind was a whirlwind of calculations, possibilities, and questions. What were they really facing? Was this a natural phenomenon, or was it something far more sinister? Every instinct told her that the latter was more likely. The Aegis was the most advanced vessel humanity had ever built, but this, whatever this was, seemed to exist beyond the capabilities of even their cutting-edge technology. "Admiral," Patel's voice broke through her thoughts. The science officer was hunched over a display, her eyes scanning the data with a deep frown. "There's something I don't understand. The fabric of space-time is becoming more unstable as we go deeper. It's as if we're being pulled in by an unknown force, but it's not gravitational. It's like..." Patel trailed off, unable to find the words. "Like we're being guided," Carter finished for her, turning to face the officer. The unsettling thought had crossed her mind as well. They were no longer just moving through space, they were being drawn in. "Do you have any idea who or what is responsible for this?" Patel shook her head. "I can't even begin to calculate the scale of this. The energy signatures we've been receiving don't align with any known forms of life or technology. It's like something is watching us." Carter's brow furrowed as she absorbed the implications, watching them. They had crossed the boundary into something far more complex than a simple alien species or an unknown phenomenon. It was as if they were trespassers in a realm that wasn't meant to be explored, a realm that wasn't even supposed to exist. "Anything from the other ships?" Carter asked, turning to Vega, who had been coordinating with the fleet. "They're all reporting similar disturbances," Vega replied, his voice tight. It's not just us. The entire fleet is experiencing these fluctuations, though no other ship is reporting anything as severe as what we're encountering. It's like we're in the eye of something. Something massive. The feeling of being watched intensified. Carter could sense the unease growing among her crew, even as they fought to maintain their composure. The air was thick with tension, the unknown pressing in from all sides. No one had said it out loud yet, but the thought was there, had they walked into a trap. Without warning, the Aegis shook violently, its hull vibrating with a force that rattled every person on board. Red warning lights flashed on every console, and the ship's systems momentarily flickered as though they were struggling to keep up with the chaos around them. "Report," Carter snapped, her voice commanding. "We're being pulled in," Vega said through clenched teeth. "The anomaly's energy is overwhelming the ship's systems. We're losing control." Carter's mind raced. Losing control meant they were at the mercy of whatever force was behind this. The Aegis had been built to endure countless battles, to withstand the harshest of environments. But this was different. The ship wasn't just in danger from a hostile force. It was being dismantled by something fundamental, something beyond their understanding. "Stabilize the ship now," Carter ordered. But it was already too late. The Aegis groaned, its engine sputtering as the fabric of space around them began to tear. Carter could feel the pressure building, the walls of the ship groaning under the strain. It was as if they were being crushed from every angle, the very dimensions of reality bending and warping around them. Then, without warning, everything stopped. The ship fell silent, the alarms quieted, and the strange energy readings ceased. For a moment, it was as though they had passed through the chaos, emerging into a calm, still void. But Carter knew better. The calm was only temporary, a brief respite before whatever came next. The question now was not if they were in danger, it was how long they could hold on. "We're not out of this yet," Carter muttered under her breath, staring at the empty void that now surrounded them. The silence that enveloped the Aegis was unnerving. No alarms blared, no systems flickered, just a deep, oppressive stillness that seemed to stretch forever. Carter stood rigidly at the helm, her hands clenched tightly around the armrests of her chair. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of what had just happened. One moment, they were fighting for control of the ship, and the next, everything had stopped, as if they had crossed into another world altogether. "Status report," Carter said, her voice steady, but with an underlying tension that none of her crew could ignore. Vega, looking disoriented but still focused, glanced at the screens. "The ship is intact for now, Admiral. The anomaly's energy readings have stabilized, but it's still unlike anything we've encountered. There's no sign of the force that was pulling us in, but I don't think we can trust that. This could be a trap." Patel, who had been closely monitoring the data, stepped forward. "The energy pulses have stopped, but I'm detecting a new signal. It's faint, almost like a low hum. It's not consistent, but it's there. It feels deliberate." Carter's pulse quickened. "Deliberate? You mean someone or something is still trying to make contact?" Patel hesitated, unsure how to explain the sensation she was picking up. "It's as if the signal is aware of us, but it's not quite communication. It's like a presence. Something is here, and I don't think it's friendly." A cold shiver ran down Carter's spine. Humanity had been the ones to break boundaries, to explore the unknown, but they were not prepared for this kind of encounter. An intelligence that didn't just speak or broadcast signals, but instead seemed to sense them, to reach into their very being. The weight of that realization was not lost on her. "Can you trace it?" Carter asked, turning to Vega. "Find the source of this presence." Vega shook his head slowly, frustration clouding his features. "We've tried, but the readings are inconsistent. The closer we get to pinpointing it, the more the signal seems to shift, almost as if it's trying to stay hidden. It's like it's playing with us, drawing us in without letting us know where it is." Carter's gaze hardened. "I don't like games." We need answers now." The crew was restless, sensing the urgency in her tone. The unnatural calm had left them on edge. What had started as an expedition into the unknown had quickly escalated into something far more perilous, and the fear of the unknown was palpable on the bridge. Suddenly, the ship's sensors flared to life, a sharp, piercing signal cutting through the stillness. The hum had intensified, becoming a series of rapid, irregular pulses that filled the room with an eerie resonance. The symbols that had once danced across their screens were now back, larger, more complex, and moving with a strange fluidity. It was as though the symbols were alive, adapting to their every move. "Admiral," Patel cried out. "The signal. It's changing. It's evolving. It's not just an alert. It's a response. It's adapting to us, analyzing us." Carter's mind raced, trying to make sense of the rapid escalation. It was clear now that they weren't merely dealing with an anomaly. They were being studied, observed by something far more advanced than humanity could comprehend. And as the realization settled in, she couldn't help but feel a growing sense of dread. They were at the mercy of an intelligence that had the power to manipulate reality itself. "Are we being tested?" Vega asked, his voice low. Carter didn't answer immediately, instead watching the swirling symbols. A thought occurred to her, one that she couldn't ignore. The entire situation felt deliberate, methodical, as if they had been invited here. But why? What did this presence want with them? What was its ultimate purpose? "We need to make contact," Carter said finally, her voice resolute. "If this is a test, we need to pass it. But we do it on our terms. We can't be puppets in someone's game." Patel nodded in agreement. "I can try to modulate our frequencies, match the pulses it's sending. We'll need to be careful. If we misinterpret it, we could make things worse." "We'll take that risk," Carter said. "Prepare to send a signal. We're going to find out exactly who or what is behind this." The crew worked quickly, setting up a communication channel that would send their own pulses into the unknown, hoping to catch the attention of whatever force had trapped them here. They could feel the weight of the unknown pressing against them, but Carter knew that humanity had faced the impossible before, and conquered it. This would be no different. The Aegis was ready. The first steps toward making contact with the enigma of the stars had been taken. The bridge of the Aegis was alive with quiet activity as the crew prepared to initiate their communication. Every officer was on edge, each of them aware that the slightest misstep could send them spiraling into the unknown. Carter could feel the weight of the decision pressing on her chest. They had no idea what lay on the other side of this signal, whether it would lead to a peaceful encounter or unleash something far more dangerous. "Channel is ready," Paddle reported, her fingers hovering over the controls. "I've calibrated our frequency to match the signal patterns. We're sending it out now." The words hung in the air as the crew held their breath. For a brief moment, it seemed as though nothing had happened. The hum from the anomaly had quieted, almost as if it were waiting for their next move. Then a flash of light erupted from the anomaly. It was blinding, pure energy cascading from the center of the strange void. The ship shook violently, the warning lights flaring up once more as the crew scrambled to maintain control. "Report," Carter shouted, gripping the edge of her console to steady herself. Vega's voice was urgent, tinged with disbelief. "Admiral, the signal. It's coming back at us, but it's amplified. We're being flooded with energy, both from the anomaly and the ship's systems. It's like the space around us is responding." Patel's eyes widened. "It's like it's reacting to our signal. But it's more than just a response. It's understanding us. It's as if we've opened a door, and now it's coming through." Carter's heart raced, and she gave a sharp nod. "Prepare for anything. We're committed now." For a few long seconds, nothing else happened. Then the symbols on their screens morphed again. This time, they weren't random. They formed coherent shapes, repeating patterns, almost as if they were spelling something out in a language beyond comprehension. The shapes were geometric, precise, and unsettlingly alien. It was clear that they were being watched, studied. Suddenly, an explosion of light filled the bridge. It wasn't a burst of energy, but rather a piercing flash of colors, like the very essence of the cosmos unfolding in front of them. The room was bathed in blinding white and purple hues. The crew instinctively shielded their eyes, but there was no pain, no sensation of heat. It was simply overwhelming. Then, as abruptly as it had come, the light faded, leaving only a lingering hum in the air. The bridge was dark, silent once more, and the energy readings had dropped dramatically, as though they had entered a new phase of the anomaly's influence. Carter stood frozen, her mind racing. Had they just made contact? What did this presence want from them? She had no answers, only questions. The feeling that something far greater than humanity lay ahead was undeniable. "Admiral, the data is coming in," Vega said, his voice steady. "The symbols. They're forming a pattern, a map, I think. We're seeing coordinates." Patel stepped forward, her eyes wide. "It's a location, not within our galaxy. It's distant, far outside known space. A place where no human has ever gone." Carter's eyes narrowed. A place where? Vega hesitated, his fingers running over the console. "The coordinates, they're not even in this dimension. The way they're written, they're pointing to an area where the laws of physics don't apply. It's as if the fabric of space itself is different there." A chill ran down Carter's spine as she processed the information. This wasn't just a call from an alien race. It was an invitation, a summons to somewhere humanity had never even imagined. The implications were enormous. Whoever or whatever was behind this anomaly had knowledge of realms beyond their comprehension, dimensions that no human mind could fully grasp. "We're not in the same universe as we were a moment ago," Patel whispered, her voice barely audible. "I don't know how to explain it, but the very nature of reality has shifted." Carter took a deep breath, her voice firm and resolute. "Prepare the fleet. We're going to follow these coordinates. We've come this far, and we're not backing down now. Whatever this force wants, we'll face it, on our terms." The crew responded without hesitation, their resolve now strengthened. They had crossed into something greater than any conflict they had faced before, something beyond their wildest dreams and fears. Yet they were human. And humans had always thrived in the face of the unknown, no matter how impossible the odds. The Aegis set its course, leaving behind the familiar and entering the vast, uncharted realm ahead. The adventure had only just begun, and whatever awaited them at the edge of reality itself, they would meet it head-on. The Aegis cut through the shifting anomaly like a blade through water, its engines humming softly, barely able to keep up with the strange forces tugging at the ship. The crew had long since stopped glancing nervously at the readings. They knew better now than to worry about the impossible. It was no longer about understanding the laws of space or the rules of physics. It was about surviving this journey into the unknown. The ship had followed the coordinates given by the symbols, and the farther they traveled, the more the fabric of reality itself seemed to warp. Space bent and twisted around them, like a vast cosmic puzzle whose pieces were being rearranged by an unseen hand. They could no longer measure distance by conventional means. Time had become something fluid, unpredictable. The usual sense of direction had dissolved completely. "Admiral, the anomaly is growing in intensity," Vega said, his voice tight with concern. "The gravitational distortions are off the charts. The ship is holding together for now, but we're pushing the limits of our hull integrity." Carter glanced up at the readouts. The ship was more than just a tool. It was a symbol of human ingenuity, a vessel designed to withstand the harshest environments, to explore the very edges of known space. But here, in this place, it felt insignificant. It was like a single spark in an infinite ocean of darkness. "What's our status on the fleet?" Carter asked, keeping her tone even despite the growing tension. Vega hesitated before responding. "The other ships are holding steady, but their systems are beginning to show signs of failure. It's like they're being drained. power surges, loss of navigation systems, communication blackouts. It's spreading across the fleet. Carter's heart sank. The fleet had been their lifeline, their strength. And yet, they were all vulnerable here, together in the grip of something far beyond their control. "Admiral, you need to see this," Patel called from the back of the bridge. Her voice was strained, her eyes glued to the console. "We're receiving another signal. It's different this time. It's not just data. There's something else. It's like a voice. A voice," Carter repeated, her pulse quickening. "Can you isolate it?" Patel nodded quickly, her fingers moving deftly across the console. "I'll try, but it's coming through in multiple frequencies. It's not just sound. It's something else. It's almost like it's inside my mind." The tension on the bridge grew palpable as the crew exchanged wary glances. Everyone knew that once they made contact with whatever was out there, things would never be the same. It was a gamble, a risk they couldn't back away from now. The voice came again, but this time it was clearer, sharper, as if it were directly in their ears. It was not in any language known to humanity, but there was a rhythm to it, an undeniable cadence that suggested intelligence. The sound was at once alien and oddly familiar, as if it spoke to some primal part of the human psyche, something deep and ancient. "Admiral," Vega said, his voice strained. "The signal. It's repeating. I think it's trying to communicate." Carter's mind raced. A communication was what they had been waiting for. But this was far more than they had bargained for. There was no way to predict how a species capable of this level of power would respond to their presence. "Is it a warning?" Carter asked, though part of her was already dreading the answer. "I don't know," Patel said softly. "But it's not hostile. At least not yet. It's like it's welcoming us." There was a long pause as the crew processed her words. Welcome. Was this a test? Or had they stumbled into a place so far beyond human comprehension that any sense of understanding was futile? The voice came again. This time, it wasn't just a message. It was a feeling, an impression, a sense of vastness, of endless space, of something older than time itself. And there was no doubt about it now. It was aware of them. It was reaching out, not with violence, but with a presence so immense that it made everything the crew had ever known feel insignificant. Carter felt a cold rush of fear, but she refused to let it take hold. She was human, and humanity had always thrived in the face of the unknown, even when that unknown stretched beyond the stars and into the very fabric of existence. "We keep moving forward," Carter said, her voice steady and unwavering. "Whatever this is, whatever it wants from us, we'll face it. This is humanity's destiny, to explore, to understand, and to survive. We're not turning back now." The ages pressed onward, its engines powering through the void, into the heart of the mystery, toward whatever awaited them. The crew had crossed into a realm where reality itself was uncertain, but they were no longer just explorers. They were participants in a far larger, far older game. Whatever was out there, it was waiting, and they would soon find out what its true purpose was. The journey grew colder, more disorienting, as the Aegis and its fleet pressed forward, guided only by the strange, evolving signal that pulsed like a heartbeat in the fabric of space. The stars themselves seemed to disappear, swallowed by the all-encompassing blackness that surrounded them. Reality had become nothing more than an abstract concept, a fragile thread tenuously holding the ship and its crew to the familiar. On the bridge, Admiral Carter stood at the forefront, her eyes fixed on the glowing map of coordinates ahead. They were close now, closer than ever to whatever lay at the heart of this cosmic enigma. The feeling of being watched, being known, had only intensified. The presence, whatever it was, had never truly left them. It was always there, in the silence, in the hum of the ship, in the strange messages that echoed in their minds like whispers. "Admiral," Vega said, his voice steady, but with an edge of something unfamiliar. "Uncertainty. The signal's becoming clearer. It's no longer just a hum or a series of pulses. It's formulating words. But they aren't in any language we recognize. It's like it's growing more intelligent. Carter felt a shiver run down her spine. Is it responding to us? I think so, Vega replied. But it's not direct communication, not yet. It's almost like it's testing us, seeing how we respond to it. Patul, who had been silently observing the data, spoke up. This is unlike anything I've ever encountered. It's alive. The signal itself isn't just information. It's consciousness. It's aware of us in a way that's fundamentally different from anything we've ever faced. But we can't tell if it's hostile or not. There was a quiet pause as the weight of those words settled over the room. What could it mean for something to know them without truly speaking? To reach into their very thoughts and emotions without explanation? This was no simple alien species. It was something beyond that, something that existed on a plane far removed from the physical universe as humanity understood it. The ship lurched, throwing the crew momentarily off balance. The strange hum intensified, vibrating through the hull, and the lights on the bridge flickered as if the very energy of the Aegis was being pulled in different directions. Hold steady, Carter ordered, gripping the armrests of her chair. She was used to crises, battles, ambushes, catastrophic failures. But this was different. This was something no fleet training could prepare them for. She had no guidebook for what was happening now. Admiral, Patul said urgently, the ship's systems are reacting to the energy. The engines, the life support, everything is fluctuating. It's like the fabric of reality is touching the ship. Carter's stomach churned. This was it. They had reached the heart of whatever was out there. The power they were facing was beyond comprehension, and whatever it wanted, whatever purpose it had, they were about to find out. Brace yourselves, Carter commanded, though she could already feel her own heart racing. We're about to make contact. Stay focused. Whatever comes next, we face it together. And then, it happened. The ship shook again, but this time, it wasn't violent. There was a strange sense of weightlessness, as if the Aegis had been lifted out of its place in space and was now floating in some other realm. The very laws of physics seemed to warp, the universe stretching around them as though it were a living thing. Before Carter could say anything, the voice, the presence, made itself known once more. This time, it was unmistakable. The voice wasn't coming through the ship's speakers, nor was it a sound at all. It was within their minds. A sensation, a wave of thought and feeling that resonated deep within each crew member. We have waited. You have arrived. You are the first of your kind, yet you are not. You are the beginning and the end. You are humanity. Your world is but a fragment in the void, a single piece of the whole. The words felt like a weight pressing against Carter's chest. The Aegis wasn't just in contact with an alien intelligence, it was face to face with something far greater. A being that had existed before the stars, before the galaxies, before time itself had begun its march across the universe. Carter's breath caught in her throat. She couldn't process all that the voice had said. Its meaning was beyond her reach, beyond any understanding humanity had developed. She glanced at her crew, each of them wide-eyed and silent. They were all feeling it, the immense power, the realization that they were no longer just explorers. They were witnesses to something that had been waiting for them, something that had watched humanity's every step since the dawn of time. What do you want from us? Carter managed to say, her voice barely a whisper, though she knew that whatever came next would change everything. The voice answered with a single thought, echoing in their minds like the pulse of a distant star. Understand. The Aegis shuddered once more, and the world as they knew it fractured.